Hi. Welcome to Live with Ms. Steph. Hi, I'm Ms. Steph. I am the executive director and founder of Triple F Empowerment Inc. I also, not happen to be, but am a former laboratory scientist, former after school director, summer camp director, um, among many other things, and also other random kind of fact about me is that I am an independent recording artist in one of my past iterations. That being said, I am so glad to be with you today. We are here live, getting ready to go into our various activities. Of course, as usual, we're going to let me get myself situated and organized and so forth. There we go. We're going to do our weekly Science Club news. And of course, our Thursday version of our weekly Science Club news will, of course, do our updates and reminders, things that you need to know about what's going on this particular weekend and going a bit into next week. I will give you my testing tips. You know that that's one of the things that I'm doing right now is making sure that you are aware of some tips. I wouldn't say tricks, but tips and some focused ways to help your young scientists prepare for the upcoming state tests. So, because there are various state tests that are going on, my perspective is a unique perspective, the perspective of a teaching scientist, as in a scientist turned educator and also a nonprofit founder and executive director, someone who is in and out of various schools. When I say various, I have had the pleasure and the honor of providing STEAM engagement at over 25 locations over the last, under the umbrella of my organization, over the last 13, 14 years. I've had the honor of being in and out of multiple institutions right here in New York City, small, medium, and large. And so my perspective is that of someone who travels around. We have a traveling science teacher service that we provide to schools, among other things. And that gives me insight into multiple schools. That I was the science teacher at a charter school for K through 5 at one point in my existence as being a STEAM educator. And I had 300 children that I was responsible to engage in the sciences and educate. And so I have a unique perspective on what you might want to consider when you are preparing your young person at home. And again, I'm coming from the perspective of someone who runs a nonprofit that focuses specifically on STEAM with the mindset of an OST director, meaning out of school time, somebody who really has input into the out of school time space. And so those people, we tend to have a different perspective than your classroom teacher. Definitely take their input and reach out to them. So we're kind of getting into the tips already, but reach out to them. That's one tip. Talk to your child's teacher. Definitely find out from them what they're thinking is going to be most helpful for your young person right now. Okay. That being said, let's get into our Science Club news. Again, welcome to Live with Ms. Steph. Today is March 27th, 2025, and we are rolling right through the first quarter for those of us in business. Okay. And for those of us who follow the Gregorian calendar um, as our business calendar as well, right? Because sometimes those are a little bit different, but Triple F Empowerment Inc. follows the 12-month Gregorian calendar for our business calendar, for our fiscal calendar. And so we're riding right through the first quarter. y'all, and we've had a great time, really, if I were to reflect, right? Because the Science Club News is a time to reflect and get you ready for what's going on. If I were to reflect, we had a great first quarter. And what I mean by that, we can talk about a little bit. So, yeah, top thing. I said this on Monday, and I have been saying this, and I will be doing some posts. There's no Saturday Science Club this coming Saturday. Okay. So that's important for you to be aware of. We're all taking a rest day. I encourage you to hang out with your child or do something that's relaxing and reflective. Right now, it's super sunny outside. I have not quite checked the weather for the weekend yet, simply because I'm not running Saturday program. Typically, I would have checked the weather and everything already by now. It's Thursday, and I would have planned out the materials that I needed to take in my cart and pack my cart and all that type of stuff. But that being said, we are inviting you the next time we will welcome Saturday scientists ages 5 through 10 to Wadley on 114th Street to participate in our Saturday Science Club adventures/shenanigans will be on April 5th from 12 to 2 p.m. We do not have program this coming Saturday, March 29th. I've said it a lot because I want to be clear. I want to make sure that you know what's going on, not to harass you, not to make you feel bad, none of that. But I'm saying it frequently and clearly so that you can be available and ready to do what needs to be done and join us and have a great time, y'all. Other things that are going on. So we are, I'm just also trying to do a little posting, y'all. I'm doing a lot of behind the scenes and front of the house and all that type of stuff. So like I said, on April 5th is going to be the next time that we will be inviting folks to join in for Saturday Science Club. The other things that we have got going on is going to be then our summer science club. Folks, I already have spots already taken up. Folks have already paid their deposit. Did you know that early bird registration for Summer Science Club 2025 has expired? We're already now moving on to open registration. That being where you are going to need to pay the full, because I was giving a discount for folks who registered their child early. I was making sure that you would be able to pay even less than we already charge, y'all. This is a high value program. We provide a year and a half worth of science education, not just summer education, because sometimes when people think summer school or summer program, it's kind of like the extra stuff. It's stuff that maybe the child doesn't need or something that's like not really as intense. No, I go even deeper and make it even more intense and more engaging and more exciting because I have the same group of children with me all day, every day. So yes, so Summer Science Club 2025, we are going to be running from July 7th through August 8th. We've got partners that we've already got in place, people. We have our Summer Science Club location, obviously. Some years in the past, unfortunately, we have not necessarily had a location just yet, but no, for the last 3 years, we have been in the same place. So yes, we will be with at Chloe Day School again. We're super excited to be partnering with them again this year. And of course, partnership has various levels and various meanings. And if you have more questions about what that specific partnership means and all that type of stuff, sure, you can ask me that offline. But as far as you are concerned, Summer Science Club parents, thank you so much to those of you who have already registered, who have already got your child. I heard from a parent yesterday, girl. Yes, I heard from somebody yesterday that is going to be traveling from another borough. Actually, we have two families that are traveling from the Bronx, but this is a whole nother borough that is even less convenient to get into Upper Manhattan to. But that family, their child specifically said, I want to go to Miss Stephanie. So I'm super excited to be welcoming them for yet another year. This child has actually come multiple years when the family lived in Harlem, and now they live outside of Harlem. And honey, child, girl, they care not and will be making the trek to us super excited to have them join us again. And once again, it is time to do the registration. I will have the registration link below in the description box for y'all. And the registration link has been posted on LinkedIn, it's been posted on Facebook, and it is in my profile situation on Instagram. Y'all know I'm on Instagram daily. There's something daily for you to grab, an update and encouragement to be an awesome scientist. Every day you have an opportunity to get information from us about what we are doing and engaging in. And so we really want to make it super clear that we are active. You know, sometimes I interact with folks who are actually, I had a conversation today. Folks who maybe haven't seen us in a while or seen me in a while for whatever reason, and they're like, "Hey, are you still doing?" Yes, we are still doing. Short and sweet, we are still doing, still active, still moving about Harlem, still focused on Harlem. And sometimes folks may wonder, so like, why? Why? Like, does Harlem still need? Yes, yes. Why? And does? Yes. Okay. And I'm super appreciative of all the partners that we have over the years and that we're accumulating. This past weekend, I did a live on Instagram, and thank you for those of you who watched that live on Monday, who joined me on Mondays at 12:35 ish, just like this is on Thursdays at 4:35 ish, depending on kind of when I get things going. Um, I shared that this weekend I was invited to do a youth symposium with an organization that I had not worked with before. And they were so welcoming and had such a great time. And not only was the organization welcoming, but then I got to meet one of you all, one of the people who watch Live with Miss Steph over the years, who watched back during when COVID was at its height and when we just started. For those of you who don't, might not kind of be kind of tracking it, I'll put it that way, because most of us who are grown-ups at this point in some way experienced COVID and the impact of it. Some of us who are in education are experiencing the impact of it still to this day, right? So that being said, I got a chance to interact with one of y'all, one of my cyber scientists, right? Ooh, I like that name. Shall we keep that? Let's see. Let me know. Let me know in the DMs because I think there's some live chat available here. But yeah, it was lovely meeting that family. I hope y'all see this. I hope y'all, because I thanked y'all on Monday. I'm not sure if you saw that one, so I'm saying it here. It was really lovely meeting that family and getting to interact with those young people and seeing their growth and getting a chance to meet their mom because their mom found me online somehow. That's a part of the conversation. So if y'all are watching, tell me, because we didn't get a chance to talk about that, right? But that's a conversation that we didn't get to have as far as how she found me. But their mom found me, and they were watching back in 2020. And I think they watched maybe for at least a year, for a period of time. And they were committed viewers. And so I really appreciate y'all. And of course, as if you've been following and watching for a long time, you have seen the evolution, the change, the growth that has occurred. And I use those different words because they all kind of invoke a different thing for each person. And so I want to make sure that I'm communicating across the board to everybody and so that you're able to grab on and feel engaged, right? Teachers, we differentiate. We make sure that each student can reach and access the information and feel welcome. Welcome. And so, yeah, I mean, and yes, everybody is welcome. And yes, I'm going to say that. And for those of you who get the reference, yes, I do mean that reference. Okay. Unapologetically, do I mean the reference you may be thinking of from the news. And for those of you who don't, you're welcome. Everybody is welcome here. And so that being said, super thankful that the impact has occurred and that we've been able to interact with different partners and all of those things over the years. So yeah, so this coming Saturday, no club. April 5th, club, Saturday Science Club. That program, there I did a full video a couple of weeks back answering some frequently asked questions from one of the new members of our Science Club community. Welcome, you know who you are. And that particular parent asked me a specific questions. And so I actually used those questions to inspire one of my lives from a couple of weeks back. Look for the Saturday Science Club FAQ, and you will go watch that video and you'll get a whole bunch of information on what we do on Saturday, as well as like just answer frequently asked questions about, do I bring snack? Is there a fee? All those things. In particular, I will point out one of the frequently asked questions. Is there a fee? For example, do I charge for that particular program and our engagement there? No, we do not. Ms. Steph Science Club is part of Triple F Empowerment Inc. Actually, it's the main part of Triple F Empowerment Inc. It is the thing that Triple F Empowerment Inc. does. And then Ms. Steph Science Club has various components. And one of the components is Saturday Science Club. And Saturday Science Club, there is no fee for. As far as Summer Science Club, which is something that I mentioned earlier, Summer Science Club registration is open. Summer Science Club is valued at $700 a week. We charge a fee of $425 as a nonprofit. We meet the gap through fundraising and through partnerships and in different aspects. And so families are responsible for $425 per week. And for those of you who are registering from now until June, you are going to be responsible for $50, an additional deposit of $50 per week you register your child for. So for example, families don't always have their child attend for every week. So if your child is going to attend 3 of those 5 weeks that I mentioned from July 7th through August 8th, 2025, if your child's going to participate in 3 of those weeks, your non-refundable deposit is for $150. And that, trust me, is valued actually much higher. But that being said, that's what the deposit is for. And or rather that's the amount of the deposit. And that deposit is to help us continue with an efficient and effective, right? Because efficient and effective are actually 2 different things, but an efficient and effective Summer Science Club preparation process. And if you have more questions about the details of the curriculum, that's something that actually closer to, I'll have more lives about that, because remember, this time of year, my focus is on the testing tips, which I need to get to because we're 18 minutes into our little chit chat with y'all. Thanks for watching, by the way, and thanks for hanging out, by the way. So yeah, so that's that. I'll do more lives on that. So let's focus on the tips for the testing. Remember, today's top tip and the iterations thereof are going to be reaching out to your child's current educators. So their classroom teacher is going to have the most information about their just current performance, right? And how they are handling the classroom experience, how they're handling any of the mock tests that they've already been given. When I mentioned earlier about the different institutions I've been in and out of and a part of and have partnered with, right? All of those words mean different things again. And so my current folks, all of my places have given all of the traveling science teacher locations that have testing grades have given some form of mock test, or at least are aware of child's, say, reading level. They're doing tutoring. I have one particular site that I was at yesterday. I have 2 elementary schools that I go to on Wednesdays. And both of those sites definitely are aware of testing. They know where the students are at right now. All of the instructors in the testing grades are able to communicate pretty clearly like what each scholar might be struggling with, right? Because maybe your child can read perfectly fine and can write perfectly fine and like write detailed pieces of information, but maybe they're not necessarily interpreting graphic data well, right? So those are different skills. All of those are different skills, and they have different pieces associated with them. Remember, I am a teaching scientist, so my perspective is a bit different, as well as an out of school time educator. So we're looking at a lot of the social emotional impact on a child and how they're emotionally navigating things, and are they getting an opportunity to be creative, because some of the support and the lion's share of the push in schools at this time, depending on the type of school your child goes to, might not be around giving them creative outlets and giving them opportunities to display their critical thinking skills. And so, for that reason, there might be some disconnect between the other more straightforward skills that they can do, they need to be able to display on testing, right? So, for example, I, as some of you may or may not know, as I kind of just like threw in earlier, I have a very creative streak. Very. It's a lot of color in my life, in various ways. I enjoy singing and have spent a period of time actually doing that. I wouldn't necessarily like whatever is between amateur and semi professional, right? Um, Really intentionally, I've danced over the years. I was part of step team, all these types of things. Music, I enjoy music deeply. Um, I am quite crafty as well, like a lot. I enjoy doing crafts. I actually do something called paper quilling, which involves quite a bit of technique and moving the paper into small pieces, and it's like long strips, and then you wind it up, and then you do like this and do like so, and place it strategically. Yeah, strategic planning. And so there's the math brain coming in contact with the art brain. And so my point of all of that is that time to create and time to interact with music, art in all of its various ways that it presents in our world and in our space gives children, everybody really, but specifically children, because we're talking about kids, gives children the ability to process some of the skills that may seem like they're not related. Okay. And so that's my take. In addition to talking to your child's primary educator, whomever that might be, in whatever space that might be, my other tip: creative time. Listening to music is very good. There are multiple studies, like multiple um, studies that talk about how music, typically it's on quote unquote classical music, which I have various opinions on about that, but there's definitely evidence there, because that's the music that, for various reasons, gets studied, and what is called classical music is a whole other thing. That's not where I'm going right now. What I'm saying is that there is evidence. There's actual scientific evidence that music helps the brain. Okay, helps the brain develop, helps the brain process. Also, other tips. So, in addition to creative outlets during this time, right? Very often, some of you may not know kind of what happens, especially if you're not in schools and you don't know kind of what happens after a test. Like sometimes kids will be given coloring sheets and things to occupy themselves if they complete the test before. other students do. Here in New York, time limits are not so much the concern anymore, especially the science test is not a time test any longer. Um, and so, yeah, sometimes children are given coloring sheets, and you may be like, why are they giving my kid a coloring sheet? Like, that doesn't make sense. One, for the outlet. Two, it is a quiet, calming activity. Okay. And fine motor skills. Three, fine motor skills. Okay. Um, Another tip. So talk to your child's primary educator. Engage your child in as many creative activities as possible right now. Okay. Especially if their school is well known for high quality test prep, the content prep is probably being covered, but they need to be able to be creative right now to make sure that all of the content that is being deposited in them is being processed. Okay. Third and final tip, and then we're going to go into our activity. Third and final tip, gross motor play. Again, there's plenty of science behind this. Do I have the exact data for you? No, I do not, because this is not the space for that. But gross motor play, again, remember, my perspective is from an after school and OST professional, and I'm a trained OST professional. I went to a course that specifically taught us how to, it was over a year long, taught us, and I had a mentor and everything, was in contact with her. Oh, such an amazing woman she was. She's one of the reasons why we have Science Club. Okay. And she was our professor. I always call her professor. And we were instructed about the importance of, when we received the students from day school, how important it was for us to make sure that they had gross motor play. So for the lay people, to go run around. Gross motor, large muscle play. For those of you who are not aware, some of these schools, they don't have a gym. One of my schools that I go to on a regular basis, love it as far as the social emotional environment. They are wanting to move because they don't have a gym. Now, they have an outdoor play area, which is like in New York City, kind of rare. They have an outdoor play area for the students, and the kids love going outside. And so moving the large muscles, that's what I mean by gross motor, getting into the science of it, right? Moving those large muscles helps children digest what they've learned that day. Like I said, we were taught in our studies as OST professionals, out of school time professionals, after school, summer camp, all that. Again, remember, I went through a process, of course. And we are definitely taught that to digest and process what they learned, and I hesitate to say learn, because they don't learn it yet until you can get it back out of them. Until they demonstrate some proof in some way, you don't know if the kid has actually learned anything, right? Just because they were in class doesn't mean they absorbed the information. And that could be for various reasons. But that being said, one of the reasons can be not having enough physical playtime, the large muscles, gross motor, right? Fine motor, hands, okay? Essentially. I'm oversimplifying, but y'all are with me, right? But gross motor, the other large muscles, moving those muscles actually does enhance the processing, cognitive processing, okay? It's a big deal. It matters. So on these weekends, if it's sunny and all that type of stuff in your neighborhood, wherever you're at, you can take your kid out and let them run around. It helps them. Okay. So yeah, so things, there we go, close. I don't know why that's not doing that. Weird. So anywho, we've got a notification over here that's not closing. So yeah, so we had our news, right? And we had our tips. I'm going to review the test taking tips. Notice how none of them are related to content today. Okay. Um, Talk to your child's primary educator. And this is for the adults. I hope that y'all can tell that, right? Talk to your child's primary educator, find out what's happening in the classroom if you have not already done so. As far as I know, their NYC DOE just had parent teacher conferences very recently for all of the grades. So you should have been able to have conversation with them by that point, at this point, very recently, over the last couple of weeks, actually. And so talk to them, find out what's going on there. Creative outlets, painting, coloring, listening to music, singing music. If you have a singer, if you have a dancer, if you have a child that um, good friends that have third grade twins, if you know who you are, y'all know who you are, okay? And I want to say they're third graders, but yes, they're third grade twins. They both like to sing and dance, but one in particular likes to dance. Get her dancing, y'all. That definitely helps. Creative outlet and release. Yeah, because I was a creative kid, and I'm telling you, I still to this day need to be able to sit and create if I'm having not just stress, but just in general. My brain needs to do things because running a program is a creative endeavor. And if I'm not able to practice being creative, trying to run program is extremely strenuous for me. Then the other thing is gross motor play. We all know as adults to get up, take a walk, right? You know, they tell us about like wellness and all that type of stuff, and how walking no less than 2,000 steps a day is a big deal and all that type of stuff. That applies to children. And even more so if we're wanting them to learn and retain knowledge. Okay? So that's it with that. Y'all know these are really, I had originally intended for these to be like 30 minutes, but such is life. I get excited when it comes to talking to you about things that are helpful for our children. So now let's hop into, this is actually requested. Shout out to Tamika. I'm not going to say her last name because we are on the internet, but I will tag you in a little bit. She's the director of a center here in New York City. And I was talking to her a few days ago, and I was talking about the different things that I was going to do this week. And I was deciding between doing the garlic thing, and doing the flower thing. So the flower thing is actually what won for what we did for the activity and the investigation. And again, you know how I am. There are, as in all of my investigations can be done with children from age 2 all the way up to high school. And so that's what I did. Like the little kids just put the flour in the cup, go back and watch the video. The March 24th video, at the end of the video, the last like 12 minutes, I talk about how to do the flour and food coloring thing. Okay. And that's based on capillary action and all that type of stuff. So now let's do the garlic thing. All right. So I am going to show you the kind of end product. This particular activity, I would say, so if you're looking at teaching plant parts, this activity really, I would say, so talking about growing plants from things other than seeds. So that's one educational objective or aspect to it. Talking about growing plants without soil, because typically children, when I ask children to name, say, the 4 main things, and there are 4, there's a 5th like thing that helps it, but there are 4 main things that plants must have. If they do not have these things, they will not grow. And there's one thing that they must have to start to grow. That one thing happens to be water. For something to germinate or start to do anything close to growing, okay, water. They have to have that. The other stuff is later, after they've received the water to start to grow. So that being said, very often children will tell me soil is one of the things that it needs. It is one of the things that us instructors call educators, whatever form of educator. Like I've told you, I'm a teaching scientist. That's how I identify myself, as a scientist turned educator and enrichment coordinator. Um, and so, but in all seriousness, without being silly, soil is one of the top misconceptions. Children will tell you soil is one of the things. If you ask them to list things that plants need to grow, they will tell you soil. They will also tell you a seed. Both of those things are misconceptions, meaning they are incorrect. So I'm telling you now, right, as an adult, because maybe you think that seeds and soil are like two things that should go on those lists. They're not. Primary thing is water. Okay. They need water, nutrients, sunlight, and space. Space meaning room to grow. Okay. And so, and limitations on any of those things will limit the growth and how far the plant can get into its typical growth cycle. Okay. Into its life cycle, whether it can make it all the way to adult plant and all that type of stuff. So anywho, like I said, one of the things that this helps teach is the need for water and the fact that you don't need soil, okay, necessarily. And also going into plant parts. I really, really like this one is because it easily displays, do y'all see that? Those are the roots. Displays the first thing that grows out of a seed or a cutting. Stuff must grow down first to absorb the water and the nutrients before you can even get into photosynthesis. Because people think photosynthesis, and we all know, well, I don't want to presume what people know, but leaves, right, are the parts of plants that absorb sunlight. Okay. So again, function of plant parts, all of these things. Notice I haven't even done the activity with y'all yet. And we have gotten through a lot of content about plants, their needs, the how to start them or how you don't necessarily have to start them, and their parts. Those are like some general things. If you're looking for some things that you're wanting to teach your young scientists, especially early elementary, that's a conversation that you can have with them very easily through doing this very straightforward activity. So as promised, here we go, Tamika. So the first one, let's mimic this. I'll show y'all how to set that up. This is garlic from the store. Yes. Did you order it special? Nope. This is another one of my activities that's a get it from a local location and you can do it immediately type thing. This is another one of those, especially that. Okay. Before we go into the procedure, I want to show y'all another tip, another hack, actually. Remember how I'm always like, cover your tray, cover your tray. Here's another way to cover your tray. You see this big old jumbo bag? Now, these I do order. I don't know if you can get them. Like, actually, you probably can get them. I just don't know how easily it is to get them. These are like the 2.5. This is the jumbo. This is what you want on the box, okay? Jumbo, and they typically come in like maybe like 12 let me look at my boxes. I order them in bulk. So mine come in 15 and I have like 3 that come at a time. This is one of my trays. This is, as you can tell, one of the smaller trays. I'm going to hold it up to my face so you can see how big it is. Boom. Isn't that fantastic? Okay. It's another way to cover your trays. And that's like, do you see how much that's even faster than my other little situation? And legit, it will come right off. See? All right, so let's tilt y'all down a little bit so you can see a little bit more. Right? Do you see? It's fantastic. Okay. Cool. All right. So let's recreate this one first. It is, I like minimal supplies. It's just a few supplies. So we're going to do the cotton ball. Okay. One of the larger pieces of cloves of garlic, right? So this is a whole head. Well, it's not a whole head, but I purchased head of garlic. Again, as usual, one of my major tips, if you're a fellow STEAM educator on here, my big tip to you, I don't care how many times you have done an activity. I'm going to use my Miss Stephanie voice with y'all. How many times you have done an activity, practice it before you do it with the students. Meaning, run it, because actually I was having trouble getting these to sprout. Okay, so one of the reasons is because this bottom piece, you see how that's covering where the roots are going to come out of? So you need to pop that off. See, and it's kind of difficult. It's not easy. But now you see how that's exposed. That piece needs to be exposed to the water or to the damp situation. All right. I know right now you can only see my mouth, but this is what's more important. We're going to dampen these. Okay. And you can take off the outer layer, but notice you still, this you can leave on, the paper that's there, but this part really needs to be exposed. Some of these YouTube videos aren't telling you all that. This part has to be exposed because that is where the root grows out of it. Now, you want that bottom part to be intact, right? So you don't want to cut off that basal layer, but that you want it to be exposed. Let me go there. That's got to be exposed, right? And then this is wet. And that's it. I'm so serious, Tamika. Okay. And you're probably like, is that it? Yes, that's really it. And then let it just go. Okay. You do want this to remain damp. It does need to be wet. Again, remember water, which is one of the kind of primary things we want children to understand. Water is extremely important to living things. Plants, like no water, no plants. So if you see plants somewhere, there's water. Even if it's like a speck of water, there is some water somewhere. Just like the desert, there's water somewhere because there are plants that grow in certain parts of the desert. Okay, of deserts. Okay, so anyway, see, there, done. Cotton, small cup, clove of garlic. That's it. Boom. Okay, so that's one. Now, let's get spicy. Okay, because you know just how I live life. Alrighty then. So for those of you who are still watching or skip to this part, thank you. Okay, for joining me for Live with Ms. Steph. Today is March 27, 2025. All right, so I am going to do a suspension. This next one, you may have seen it on other YouTube videos as like with the not Q-tips, toothpicks, okay, or just like wooden dowels or whatever. This, I buy these in bulk, like I already told y'all. There's different things, and I'm so pro use things in different ways, and this encourages children, right, to be engineers. Hello, like figure out a way. Okay, now that little whatnot I just did, no, I don't want any children doing that. I don't want even high schoolers doing that. You see this sharp? No. Okay. So you can like pre-do. There's stuff that you can do for them, or you can get right, like a hole puncher. I probably could have done that, but you see how that's like a harder thing to do. Okay. Um. So yeah, we're so. But anywho, that's that. So we've got this. Now I'm going to get a clove that's not as big to kind of stick through there. Okay. And the idea, this is just different options, right? So this is the cotton ball method. This is now going to be the suspension method. So the suspension method is suspending that bottom piece, the piece where the root will emerge, in water. Because again, water is going to be our primary thing. You must have water to get plants to start to grow, to resume to grow, to any of that. Okay. Now, this, I'm going to put this in all the way, and then I want to show y'all. See, you see how that's like just barely touching? I actually probably want more. Okay. Because I want it to be able to touch. I'm so glad that worked like legit. I just thought of that like right before I came on live. Again, engineering. You want to encourage people, kids, to be engineers. Like what? How can you engineer something to suspend clove of garlic over a cup? There we go. All right. So that is sitting now in. You don't want it to hover over. It must be dipped inside, and so you have to keep the water level high enough. And what will be super cool about these, and of course, y'all know I'll be posting pictures on Instagram and Facebook over the next next week. Really, this is going to happen quickly. Okay, this takes a day or two. If you don't see something in a day or two, something is wrong. So that's one of the things. Like I said, remember my instruction to the STEM instructors. If you don't see something in a day or two, and you're trying this at home before taking it to your students, revamp. Because it's not gonna work, okay? Because this actually starts very quickly. All right, so we've got those two. Third option for sheer entertainment, okay? You can have the kids, this would be more for like a middle school, right? So you can give them some paper clips and say, okay, how can you like suspend, right? That word suspend, okay? Suspension bridge and all that type of stuff, right? So how can you suspend a clove of garlic over a cup of water? Okay, so I've got this, and then I'm going to try to connect another piece across, across, um, okay, so we've got our apparatus. And now let's grab another clove of garlic and let's test it. You see how fast that was? Let's test it. Boom. Right. And that bottom hard piece came off. The most outer paper off, but leave that other layer. It's fine. Because then they'll get to actually see that layer kind of be pushed off. Okay. Right. So see, it's open, exposed. Then I'm going to push it. So how can I get it so that it makes the most sense without stabbing myself? Okay. I'm doing this live with y'all because I'm like in real time. I haven't kind of tried to do it before. Paperclip. So things I could possibly try, right? I could try a third one, or I could like stab this and go like here and do, because that's what you're going to do with the toothpick anyway. So it doesn't hurt it. It will still grow. Okay. And these two ends, there, make it hang. Turn this back around. Do. Okay. So it could be suspended like on the edge like that. I know, does it look perfect? No. Do we care? No. Okay. So then we're going to add some water. All that matters is the end of that piece of garlic is in the water. Okay. And of course, since the cup is clear, this is another time when do not use the solo cup. You need clear cups because you want to be able to see. You want your students to be able to see what's happening because they will see the root start to grow. And of course, all they have to do is keep pouring water on top so that there's enough water. Okay. If I wanted to get like really, really creative, so you see how that, like, this is a little bit more middle school or upper elementary, right? You just want them to get a chance to tinker. You see how fast that was? Very easy exploratory situation, critical thinking, to be creative, to go, okay, I have a problem. Let's solve it. That's all engineering is. I have a problem. Let me use my math and science knowledge to solve that problem. I have constraints. It needs to sit there. Done. Okay. And then we tested it. You hung it over the thing. You saw that my other approach didn't work. Okay. I happen to know that like pushing the thing through the garlic clove should not hurt it. So that might be something that your students kind of won't know. But yeah, because remember, the root is the thing that's going to go first, right? And you'll see that happen. All right. Yeah, we've been on for a little while today. Thank you so much for watching Live with Ms. Steph. It's been fun hanging out with y'all. These are our samples, and I'll sit them. You know what I'll do. I'll let them sit and let them develop and progress and post pictures about it and all that type of stuff. This has been Live with Ms. Steph. Today is March 27, 2025. I thank you for watching, for joining me, for hanging out with me. And yes, I am going to go wash my hands with soap and water because garlic is a very strong scent and also can be an irritant. So you don't want to get, that's another tip. Make sure it doesn't get into the kids' eyes. Okay. Because it is an irritant. Everybody needs to wash their hands before proceeding with anything else. So yeah, it's been Live with Ms. Steph. I thank you so much for watching. And until next time, have an absolutely wonderful day.